Mideast Realities, a unique half-hour highlighting the real Middle East. It is a program of information that government and media often misrepresent or just don't want you to know. Get the news without bias. Facts without distortion. And most importantly, analysis from the experts. With your host and chairman of the Committee on the Middle East, Mertv Sd. Each week, this program will feature an interview, discussion, or an event to help viewers understand the complex situation in today's Middle East, and especially the realities of U.S. policies toward that crucial region of the world. Mideast Realities.
Welcome to Mideast Realities. I'm Omar Kura, your guest host for another episode of MER TV. As you know, MER tries to bring you unique interviews and coverage of unique events that pertain to the region of the Middle East. For the last two episodes, we've covered an interview that I've conducted with the General Director of the Al-Haq Human Rights Group based in Ramallah in Palestine. Mr. Abu Harthiyah spoke extensively about the human rights situation in the West Bank and Gaza Strip, especially after the arrival of the Palestinian Authority after the signing of the Oslo Peace Accords in 1993. Mr. Abu Harthiyah's talk uncovers the realities of the so-called peace process, a process of domination that we're feeling its effects all over the region of the Middle East. In this episode, the third part of the interview, Mr. Abu Harthiyah will talk about the effects of the foreign aid that goes towards Israel and the Palestinian Authority, and how changing that aid or reducing it might actually influence the human rights situation in the West Bank and Gaza Strip.
Justify this. The second thing, the Palestinian Authority still discriminate in employment between those who are peace process, pro-peace process, and against the peace process. So it's the same as with the Israelis when they were discriminating between those who were let's say Israel, and those who are national Palestinian resistance. Also from the corruption, and when they see also that some people are building villas and high buildings, and some people are living in real poverty. There is like now the gap is being widened between the two classes. We have now high class and the majority in the low class. This is also an issue of depression and frustration to the Palestinian people. The attitude and the behavior of the executive in the streets is another issue. They see that they don't like this behavior. They were dreaming of freedom. They were dreaming of a civil society. They were dreaming about a society which protect their rights, not violate their rights. And they see that there is now also difficulties of feeling secure and freedom even under the Palestinian Authority. Although on some issues there were lots of success, for example on the issue of crime and robbery and on the social level, but for political reasons, I'm talking about political parties who were struggling hand to hand with those people during the 30 years of the PLO, and today they are not secure under the Palestinian Authority. So there is lots of frustration in the street. But whenever there is frustration, you see that they are still willing to sacrifice their lives and to combat the Israeli violations and to support the Iraqi people when they are also attacked financially with all the poverty that we have, and also spiritually and morally with the Iraqi people. Although, as you know, they were raising the American flag during Clinton visit, having these hopes and dreams that he would come bringing with him peace. In 2 days they found that he's bringing with him a whispering in the ears of the politicians that he's going to send missiles and smart weapons against Iraqi children and old and hospitals and schools. So they had to burn their flags again. So this is the problem that you see. The street is, on one hand he's frustrated, on the other hand he still has the will to live free. Concerning and the Palestinian people would not accept less than a state. This is their legitimate right, and this is also what the international community have decided, that it is their legitimate right. We should remember that our legitimate right was at the international level placed in Resolution 181, which speaks about partition plan, giving the Israelis and the Palestinians equal shares in Palestine. So this is our legitimate right. Our legitimate right is to have the refugees returned to their homes and to be compensated. This is also a legitimate right. The legitimate right by the Security Council resolutions of withdrawal of Israeli troops or occupying troops from areas occupied in 1967. This is also a legitimate right. So less than this, not even one Palestinian would believe. And if you look at it from human rights point of view, if the people have the right to self-determination, which is articulated clearly in both covenants, the Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and the Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, in its first article, which states clearly that the people have the right to self-determination and they have the right to control their natural resources. So if we are given this right, then it's the choice of the Palestinian people, which I think would be an independent Palestinian state on the whole land of 1967 with Jerusalem its capital. And of course, when we speak about Jerusalem its capital, I'm speaking about the illegal annexation of Jerusalem as East Jerusalem and the unrecognition of the sovereignty of Israel on the side of Jerusalem, which is West Jerusalem. So both sides of Jerusalem still debatable. There is no recognition for Israel as Jerusalem as a capital for Israel, and I think this issue could be solved in the final status. But we have the right to see the withdrawal of the Israeli troops from East Jerusalem. So this is not a dream of the Palestinian people. This is the reality if we want to see protection for human rights. The Geneva Convention, which is also for the protection of civilians under occupation of 1949, speaks about an agreement between the occupier and the occupied that would not undermine any of the rights they gain. So it speaks about withdrawal, it speaks about the return of those displaced or refugees during the war, it speaks about the sovereignty of the area. And Israel is obliged to implement the Fourth Geneva Convention. So from this point of view, we see that there should be a Palestinian state. Whether this state would be accomplished in May 1999 after the end of the interim period or after that, it's another issue. I think that it would be, legally speaking, we have the right to declare a state. We have an authority, we have people, we have land, we are able now to sign international agreements. So we have all the basis to have an independent state, legally speaking. And also the Palestinian people through the thousands of resolutions taken at the UN in different bodies, also speaks about the inalienable rights of the Palestinian people. So speaking about this issue means we can declare the state anytime. But from my personal point of view, I think it would be a mistake to declare the state in May without having a withdrawal of the Israeli troops. Because if the same Israeli same mentality is ruling, it means that Israel would take also steps from its side. Maybe would be annexation of areas under its control, annexation of settlements, and we would have a weak state, weak borders, and then we have to start struggling another tens of years or God knows how long. But there would be different kind of struggle, but it would be renewal of a struggle. So I think that if we want to declare state, we should declare state with all its borders. There should be recognition by all states, especially the big powers, and the support. And this support should not be only a moral support or spiritual support. This should be a material, physical support. Because Israel would not stood and watch what we are doing without intervention, and I hope it would not be a bloody interventions. We always, as Palestinian people, have called for the international community to intervene on two levels. The first level is to give protection to the Palestinian people, especially during the real suffering during their uprising, and also at the beginning of the establishment of the Palestinian Authority, to have troops for protection, sent by either states or by the United Nations. But we always called for this kind of protection. The second thing, that today everybody knows that there is only one power in the world, which is the United States of America. The Palestinian people have looked always at the American policy as a biased policy towards Israel against the Palestinians' rights. This policy has been shown in different ways. It was shown by the military support, it was shown by financial support to Israel, and it was shown by the propaganda against the Palestinian people, as we were all called terrorists. There was no recognition to the legitimate struggle that we are struggling for. But since Oslo, there were lots of hopes from the American policy. Those hopes were built up on the legitimacy that we have, the Palestinian legitimacy. There were lots of changes in this policy, but you cannot speak about legitimacy and change in policy when it comes to the peace process by supporting peace and voting in the United Nations against this peace. If we say that settlements is an obstacle, then there is a Security Council which can decide if those settlements are illegal and construction of those settlements should be stopped. There should be a condemnation, and there should be a call for immediate cease of confiscating Palestinian lands. The second thing is the equal support to both sides. We feel that it's not only a financial support that we have to receive from the American people, but it should be also support for the political rights. The visit of President Clinton lately to Palestine have came not to show support to the Palestinian people, but it came to show support to the Israeli people, to convince them that we are powerless from now on, that Israel would live secure, that they have achieved the main target of occupying the Palestinian West Bank and Gaza Strip in 1967, which is the abolishing of the Palestinian Charter, which have been the only tool in the hands of the Palestinian people to continue struggle, to continue resisting for their rights. So I think that we have decided ourselves long time ago that we are not obliged to with all the articles in the Charter. But this was our decision. This was our decision when we decided to accept an independent state in areas of 67. But to come as a president only for this goal, it was shocking to the Palestinian people, although it carried with it some hopes. We never had any problem with the American people, and we saw that there were many American friends for the Palestinian people. We saw lots of support from the American people during the uprising. Many institutions have shown its support. NGOs always showed support. And we felt that we, during the uprising, were capable of changing the opinion of many Americans towards the Palestinians. That we are not terrorists, but we are victims. I think that the visit of Clinton was also important on the other level for the future. At the end of the interim period, we mentioned that there would be a possibility of declaring a Palestinian independent state. Whether this support would be in recognizing the Palestinian state after 10 minutes, like when they recognized the State of Israel after 10 minutes of its establishment or not. And the second thing, also the support to the Palestinian people on daily basis, to put more pressure on the Israelis, at least to implement the agreements that the Americans were witnessing on, and they were also parties to the signatures on those agreements. Israel is now seeing that there is a strategic relation with the Americans. This would not be changed, but I think that the Americans should prove the opposite. Any support to Israel should be conditioned with the respect for human rights. The discussion for the last 20 years among human rights activists was always that any support to any country should be conditioned with the respect of human rights. And it always comes, when it comes to third world countries, to poor countries, to Asian countries, to African countries, but when it comes to a country like Israel, there is no conditionality. $4 billion every year for military support and $4 billion in cash to build settlements in the occupied territories. From now on, there should be a change in this policy. This money should come conditioned to respect for the rights of the Palestinians inside the State of Israel, the respect of the rights of the Palestinian people in the occupied territories, and to the respect for the rights of the Palestinians on daily basis. If those conditions are not met, the Americans should stop supporting Israel, which I don't expect, of course, but at least to be a tool of pressure. The second thing, the support to the Palestinian Authority. On one hand, they support the Palestinian Authority with less money than European countries, and second, there is no conditionality to respect human rights, but on the contrary, the conditionality is to violate human rights. For example, the Americans were the first to praise President Arafat when he established the State Security Court, which is the worst kind of courts that any regime might establish or any system might have, which is a court that tried people in the middle of the night after 2 hours of their arrest without the lawyers without giving the client the right to defend himself by himself or through his lawyer. And second, the sentence would be without appeal. And this kind of court is violating the rights of the people, and this was supported by the Americans. Second, they want them to combat terrorism, and it means they would also justify the political arrest, the arrest without trial, the long arrest without any due process. And second, they are destroying any hopes to have a democratic society, a society which have different parties, a society which have opposition parties. So if you are tying those authority with those conditions, and you are telling them you have to do this and that, which violates human rights, it shows that their financial support is not only unconditioned with respect to them, but this support is to violate human rights. For the sake of who? Not for the sake of the Palestinians this time, as they, for example, can claim when it comes to the Iraqi people. We are bombing you because we believe this is for your own benefit, to get rid of this dictatorship regime. Okay, if this is true, then also we are supporting the Palestinian people for the sake of the Israelis, to protect their security. And what about the Palestinian security? Nobody would protect. We forgot also to mention that the Israelis, the Americans have also put pressure on the Palestinian people not to arrest collaborators. They want to see arrest for politicians, but they don't want to see arrest for collaborators who have violated also many of the laws during the uprising before and after. And also those collaborators are seen free all the time without having the authority from the Palestinian Authority to prosecute them and bring them before justice. And they're getting support from everybody. On the other hand, the prisoners inside the Israeli prisons are also seen as terrorists by the Israelis, although they were the fighters who brought the peace process into the sunlight. The policy of today is the new Middle East. But what kind of Middle East we are looking for? The Middle East today is seen as only a security Middle East and economic Middle East. All of us should work for the support of the security of Israel. Jordan have the responsibility to secure Israel. Palestinian Authority have the responsibility to secure Israel. The Egyptians have the obligation to secure. So everybody should work for the security of Israel. This is the new Middle East. And second, economically. Economically, that what we should gain from the peace process is better standard of living to the Palestinian people, better economic situation in Jordan, better economic situation for Egyptians, but it's not political rights. And this also, new Middle East, have causing a new kind of violations to human rights. For example, after the peace agreement between Jordan and Israel, many factories inside Israel, which used to feed thousands of families, have moved to Jordan. So now, we have raised the unemployment among those families who were usually the Palestinians are the majority of those victims. And second, we're looking for a cheap market in Jordan, where also it would cause another problem, which is child labor, which is low wages, less rights to the people, and more profits, and opening a new market for Israel in the Arab world, because those factories would.
I'm Omar Kura, your guest host for Mideast Realities TV. You've been watching the third part of the interview I've conducted with the General Director of the Al-Haq Human Rights Group based in Ramallah in the West Bank. Mr. Mohammed Abu Hathiya has spoken extensively about the human rights situation in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. I myself have noticed how depressed the Palestinians have become, especially after the signing of the Oslo Peace Accords, and the realization that their situation is not going to get any better under the so-called peace process. Next week we will conclude with the fourth part of the interview. Thank you for watching Mideast Realities, and tune in next week, same time, same channel. Thank you.